What do you say to people that say men shouldn't cry, and especially don't cry in front of your woman?
I say, come and speak to my wife, and she'll tell you very differently. No, look, for me, this is a huge, huge piece because I was that man for a lot of my life. I'd shed a tear if there was something huge happening, a death or something major in my life. When now it's something that like there's moments I get full of gratitude and I have tears come through. It's a beautiful feeling. There's two things that happen when we're born. It's that is we take our first breath and we cry. Every single person breathes then cries when they first come into this world, and that is a sign of life. So for me, crying, letting that emotion through, is a sign of life. So while I'm not saying men need to sit here and cry every single minute, but when there's something there and there's an emotion to come through, let it come through, because you're actually slowly killing yourself emotionally by not letting yourself do that.
Yeah, your videos, I don't know how, I think it just stumbled on my For You page, so I started following you immediately because they are like gut wrenching, but
Mm.
in like a beautiful way, because it's so rare to see men express like such vulnerability and such freedom. Have you been getting a lot of positive feedback or mixed feedback or negative feedback? Because it's really intense. Like you got these big burly men and they're letting it out.
We do. We've got, even in the team, the Heartbed team. My right hand man Ray, he's a 6'4", 110 kilo Maori, who shares his heart and his emotions on his sleeve. So I really, it's funny when people say men don't do that. I'm like, I've got the manliest of men in my team. So there's a lot of mixed comments and views on what we do, and that's okay. I make sense of all of them because it is fairly new and not seen as much, though it is becoming more common. It depends on the platform as well.
Mm.
TikTok's crazy with the comments and things like that. We've got a really great audience over there, though. There's a lot of negative stuff there. Though Facebook, Instagram, we do get some fantastic support. Fantastic
Hmm.
support there. So
Yeah, it's interesting because you see a lot of these retreats popping up all over, like men's retreats, women's retreats, and then
mm,
mixed retreats as well. The one thing that I see universally is this kind of cathartic release, whether it's through breath work or whether sometimes it's screaming. There was this one viral video that it's these women in the woods that were screaming and like hitting trees with branches and stuff, and people are like, can you imagine spending money to go do this? And I get what it looks like, and especially for someone who hasn't done anything like that. But for so many people, you've never had the permission to have feelings or big feelings, especially as a little kid. And then, as
yeah,
you say, like it gets conditioned. So, in a weird way, by paying that fee and showing up to a space where this is part of the whole container, like this is allowed, this is even expected, it's the first time that these people have had permission to feel their feelings. So it might look a little bit crazy, but in a weird way, um, modernity has kind of forced that to be the option, because where else are you going to do something like that?
yeah. It's the permission piece, and for a lot of the men and women and couples, because we do men's, women's, and couples retreats, it's they haven't been shown how to show their emotions properly either from a young age. Men especially, I will say, with the anger and the sadness. So we're finding more and more women um, haven't actually, they don't have a reference point to be angry, which is crazy to think, because, and it's no one's fault, because it's only what our parents and their parents have showed them, and so on and so on. So it's just modeled behavior through generations, though it can look crazy, and it does look crazy, and I make complete sense of that, though. It's them letting themselves, giving themselves permission to do it. It's not a permission piece from anyone else. And the biggest piece for us and them letting to do that is the safety within what we do when they come into our space. So the big thing for us is, yes, they allow themselves to do it, that permission piece, and they feel safe enough to do it with us as well.
Hmm. Yeah, the safety element is
Mm.
huge. Um, With the couples dynamic, would you see a common obstacle between couples nowadays? Because maybe part of it is just we're so comfortable that we maybe have the availability now to pick apart the other person. Whereas if
Mm.
you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, like you can't really complain that he's not romancing you enough or that she's not acknowledging and respecting you enough. Like almost that safety element in modernity has made us maybe more adversaries than we have been in the past. But is there a common obstacle that you've seen between couples?
Communication, number one.
Mm,
It's the number one, and we're not taught properly during school how to communicate properly, because communicating goes so much deeper than what you're saying. It's how you're saying it, how they're receiving it, lots of things like that. For a lot of the couples that come into our couples retreat, it's really different to the men's and women's. It's we really focused on returning love, because that's why
mm.
most people are together in the first place, is because they fall in love with each other, and that they forget that. So it's that remembering of love. And they'll come to our couples retreat because they think they actually have these challenges and problems together, but they soon find out through some of the processes that we do at our couples retreat that, oh, it's actually stuff that I have to deal with myself, and that we're actually pretty good. Though as soon as we sort ourselves, our own issues out, our own inner child problems out, our own traumas and triggers and all of those things, we're actually in a really good space. And now we've got the tools and resources from this retreat. Let's go do some other stuff on our own, though being together to work through that, so we can have that relationship that we deserve and desire.
So it's kind of like an interdependent relationship dynamic at the retreats.
Yeah, it was very much for how my wife and I figured out um, our challenges, because the work that we do and provide is work that we had to do ourselves, because we were in years ago now in a really bad way. Um, I was close to leaving her. We had I was I had all the labels given to me from the medical professionals of depression and anxiety and post traumatic stress, and I had massive challenges with suicidal ideation most of my life. My wife's dad was dying. My dad was dying. There was so many things, and people on from the outside going, "Oh, this is really tough. You guys should just split and go your separate ways," which is a really easy thing for everyone to do these days. It's easier to split than it is to stay together. And we found out by doing the work together first. We went and saw the marriage counselors, the psychs, and all of those things, that we figured out our problems we thought were each other together were actually problems separate. So we haven't ended up doing the work together but separately, and that's what we figured out, and that's why we've created what we've created.
Yeah, I've found just through my own anecdotal experience that the only thing you can do is work on yourself. And
Mm.
when you keep trying to fix the other person, it just creates more animosity between the two of you. Because to some extent, you are who you are and they who are who they are. And there is, in my opinion, a certain immovable portion of you that will always kind of be that personality. And it's just like, how do you make the best version of that?
Mm.
There's a really good Gabor Mate quote where he says, there's basically three options in a relationship. And one is to say, I love you. I'm not going to try to change you or fix you. I'm only going to work on myself. And whenever you come around, I'll be here. The other one is, this is not working for me and I'm going to leave. And then I think the third one, I forget the third option, the third one. But basically, like, those were the two healthy options. Like the third one, which is, I guess, the fixing mentality, is just you need to scrap that and take it off the table because it's not
Yep.
going to fix anything in the long run.